Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Sue Gaskell Barlow, and it's Monday with Sue live every Monday here on YouTube. It's a fabulous day to be alive. Every day is a fabulous day to be alive. Now, I know the attention span on most things for so many people is a minute. If you do pop on my live, it's on YouTube, Sue Gaskell, Monday with Sue, then it is an hour. And it's an hour of everyday stuff, life. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about invisible conditions. Have you got any? Do you know what an invisible condition is? Something not seen. So arthritis is an invisible condition. Have you got a hearing loss and eyesight? It goes on. And I think a lot of people don't understand and realise how debilitating any of these things can be. So that's going to be part of my talk today. Colour. Colour is another thing that, for me personally, colour just makes all the difference to anything I do at any time. And so you'll always see me with colour. So is that something that you can relate to? Can you think about the days when you feel a bit flat? And you're going to have days where you feel happy. Opposite is unhappy. It's part of the human condition. So there's lots of stuff and questions you can ask me on any topic. I've got paperwork qualifications for different things. Coaching is one of them. Peer support is another. And diploma in mental health conditions. Suicide prevention is another. Boundaries. Why do you say yes when you want to say no? So I'm quite an enthusiastic person who just loves to motivate you. Are you ready? Are you ready to be motivated? So it's Monday morning here, and I'm Sue. That's my name. Call me Susan. Call me what you like within reason, and whatever you want to call me is okay, because I'll just say, "Oh, that's interesting. What makes you call me that?" So everything in life, everything you do, is not about other people. That's the external world we live in. It's about what you do in here from your heart and your soul. So soul, unconditional love, is the energy that every one of us was born with. And the air we breathe, the way we breathe, everyday life. So I'm Sue. You'll know that by now. And if you are now bored, or this is of no interest to you, then that means you've got the perfect world. Your relationships are fantastic. Your work's fantastic. Everything you do is perfect. Or are you pretending? Are you in denial? So you go off and have a great life and nothing bothers you. You make a joke of everything. That's a role that people play. And then, of course, there's weight. Are you happy with your weight? Are you happy with your health? Do you understand that what you eat is hugely important, especially when you get to the golden years? What we eat tells us a great deal, tells me a great deal. I've been in the slimming business for 50 years, 50, and that's a lot of years. And so I tell a little story, and you have to be patient. And if you want me to talk about any topic, then you just leave a comment. If you watch me live, send me a message, and I can cover so many different things, because you see, I'm a human in the human condition, and you are, we all are. We're born after being in the womb, in the mother's womb, for roughly 9 months. And people don't understand that while you're in the womb, you're picking up energy and messages, vibrations from the person who is carrying you. It's all very interesting. So some people say, well, what does that matter? So if your mum decides to let you go, because maybe she's not able to look after you financially, emotionally, psychologically, and wants you to have a better life, or maybe she just doesn't care. The whole time you're being carried, those messages are going through to you in every cell in your body. So if you're adopted and you think to yourself, I'm different, there's something wrong, there's something I've not understood, then it might be to do with that time in your life that you won't remember. So life is a fascinating journey. You and I are a walking miracle. And do you think you're a genuinely good person? What are your morals? What's your integrity? Do you love the work you do? And have you got kindness in your heart, compassion and love? So there, that's all out there. I had a little sigh there, because so many people don't understand the most basic thing about life. It's taken me forever to wake up. Well, life is incredibly simple. I never said it was easy as a human being. Incredibly simple. And we are forever trying to change things so that we will feel better. And we expect other people to change so that we feel better. We expect other people to change so that they fit into our little box. Well, that's not going to work. No more than you can control the weather, which would be great if people would stop complaining and actually accept it and appreciate that how often people make the weather change their whole mood. People become grumpy as soon as it's raining. And the coronation recently showed me, and I really don't mind whether you're anti anything, whatever your perceptions are, whatever you think, your opinions, absolutely yours. I am saying that on the coronation, in the coronation, 2 hours service, all the build up before and afterwards and ongoing for a while. It rained, it drizzled. Now people can say it would have been so much better if only. Now you're in a mess. If only. You wished it had been different. Whereas if you accept the reality, and the reality is, it rained. It rained. The sun came out in bits. It didn't really change the atmosphere, the energy of all of those people that had put time, effort into being there to enjoy that togetherness, to enjoy the celebration and the whole persona. And nobody can take that memory away. If you did that, well done you. You don't need my well dones. I can say them. Well done you. What made you decide to do that? I just think it's fantastic, because you will have stories to share that nobody else can touch about the coronation. So if you do have any stories, I'm an ordinary everyday person. I've been to hell and back. I've had wonderful experiences. I've had moments when I didn't want to wake up. So that's the qualification I bring to this, my lives, and sharing. because it is true that we all have qualifications from the school of life, the university of life, which is what I name my website and what I name my page. So the university of life, that's you and I, we have so much to offer, so much to learn. And we also have lots to unlearn. So if I've still got you, my partner walked by just and looked in the window and he smiled, and it's just beautiful and contagious. So I smiled back. And I think that's lovely. See, that's a beautiful shared moment. Do you have those shared moments? So I'm Sue. It'd be absolutely wonderful if anybody joins me live. If that's not possible, then maybe you will listen on the replay. And if you're listening on the replay, then welcome. Write any comment, subscribe, ring the bell, join my lives, because very soon I'm going to be doing 5-minute lives. I'll be talking on, you name the subject, and I'll be talking on it: addictions, relationships. Why do you say yes when you want to say no? Why do you eat when you're not hungry? I have had a consultancy business in slimming called Shoreway for 50 years nearly. And I have been to hell and back. I started off perfectly content, having had a little weight problem, working for a company. And the only qualification was that you'd had a weight problem. Went and we were trained on a weekend conference. And then off you go, you open a slimming club. And very quickly my clubs grew until I had 3 classes a week, all different people. You could interchange between them, and over 100 members in each group. So if you times that by the decades that I was in slimming, that's a lot of people coming through my door. And what happened with me was that my members, they became extended family. And to this day, I have people that I still see and call amazing friends who have grown-up children and they have children. And we formed a relationship, a working relationship when they first came to me as members. And this is interesting now. This is work. I'm not talking about me ego-wise, I'm talking about the experience. So my work, which was part-time, a lot to start with, I loved it. And so I was there to serve people and do a service. And that was, they came to me because they wanted to lose weight. Now I took this seriously, and therefore they looked up to me, they respected me or not, and they certainly would respect and want my approval. And if we haven't really learned who we are, if we haven't learned that we don't need anyone's approval, we might want it, then we're going to go through life being very needy and struggling because we don't know who we are. We don't know really how to be ourselves because we're too busy being a people pleaser, a resenter, somebody who will do anything to avoid anger, and all of the roles that we play that we're taught how to fit in. By the time, let's go up to 10. By the time we're 10, we've gone from this unconditional love, this vulnerable baby that was so completely and utterly in the hands of all the people around, to 10 years later, learning how to fit in, learning how to say sorry when we don't even know what we're supposed to have done, and the language of blame, shame, guilt, control, punishment out of fear. So that's a fear-based language that we were taught, our parents were taught, and it's conditional. And what I'm suggesting, that there's a far healthier way to live, and that is to learn about unconditional love. Go back to your roots, accept and understand that you matter, and that you have an intuition that will take you through life. And if you've stopped using your intuition because other people, adults in your life, you were scared and you had to do as you were told and you had to follow their rules, then if you have done that, then the greatest gift you can give yourself is to unlearn how to fit in, and look at the patterns of behavior, look at your emotions and feelings and how you deal with that. And maybe watch and see that you are a reactor to other people. So that would leave you as someone who was indecisive. You wouldn't be able to say, no, that's not what I want to do, and stay comfortable with that. Because maybe as a child, if you said no, you were chastised, you were in trouble, you were punished, disciplined. And people very, very quickly learn that they can manipulate you so that you will do what they ask. So they're in charge of you. You've given your power away. And if you want to understand this, a lot of the things I'm telling you are parts of talks that I give. I work on different social medias. Go find me, Sue Gaskell, Gaskell. And Sharing is Caring is one of my pages. Sue's University of Life on Facebook. On YouTube, you'll find me. And there's so many free videos. I have a website that you can go to, join, subscribe, go and have a look in the shop. I have groups where you can join me. There's the Sure Way Eating Plan. There's a booklet with lots of information. And you can purchase these online on the website quite easily and join a group. And that's it. And then you can be there while I'm coaching you. Why do you eat when you're not hungry? And then people who think they're smart, and that's absolutely your choice, it's fine. People who just jump in before they stop and think, and thinking is really important. Why are you going to say what are you going to say? So I'm going to say you can join one of my groups for a small fee, and then you have access to me. You can buy the eating plan. Again, it's on ebook form, or by me. You can buy it in the pamphlet, and it's so simple. And then I coach. We have a talk once a week for 10 weeks. This is in the program. And I teach you the basics that maybe you think you know, help you get rid of some of the myths. And more importantly, when that person says, oh, well, I eat because I want to, I eat because it comforts me, then that's a throwaway comment. So I say, let's dig a little bit deeper. What does that actually look like? So you are maybe angry about something, or you've hurt about something, or you're anxious about something. What's the next thing you do? You turn to food, and food will never fill an emotional need. Food will never fill an emotional need. The whole there is about love. The whole there is about believing in yourself. The whole there is about self-care. And so why do you eat when you're not hungry? It can be a habit. It can be because when you hurt yourself when you were little, somebody gave you something sweet, a sweet or a biscuit. And so you associate when you feel hurt with something nice, and therefore the habit has become an addiction. And you find yourself, even though you want to lose weight and you've got every reason, because you put in weight on your limbs, excess weight, or maybe you don't even listen to that as a trigger or activate the fact that that might mean you need to think about things. Maybe you wait to have your heart attack or a stroke and then be told in no uncertain terms you need to lose weight. If you're addicted to sugars and carbs, fast food, then we can talk about that and you can understand how to change that if you choose. Excuse me. Frog in my throat. And for those of you who say, oh no, that's not me, I've not got a sweet tooth. Well, what do you go to when you're upset? If food is your addiction, what do you do? Just follow it through and stop being so clever. And if this is not for you, then that's absolutely fine. Maybe you're a smoker. Maybe you're a workaholic. And drugs, not the obvious ones, but simple ones. Maybe you don't have a weight problem. Maybe you still find that when you're anxious, it affects you and you don't eat at all. And maybe you're underweight. So there's nowhere to hide. If you're ready to ask yourself the important questions, why? Why is my life not working? Why am I in a job I don't like? Why am I in a relationship I don't like? Why do I put up with being treated with so much abuse? Now, abuse comes in many, many forms. And we have the beautiful, beautiful social media, YouTube experts giving us so much information. It's a great time to be alive because you're alive. This is your life and this is your experience. So when I talk about relationships, I'm talking about relationships with everything. So my relationship with the weather is one of joy and amazement. I look at a rainbow, there's rain and sunshine, and I can look at and see all of it. If it's pouring down with rain, I can still accept that that's the reality. Because if you say, oh, blooming rain, it's not fair, it's ruined this, it's ruined that, stop it. It changes it. It doesn't have to ruin it. It doesn't have to be a big black and white drama. It can change. So when I talk about relationships, it's what is your relationship to everything? What's your philosophy in life? And is there anything that is happening with you that you actually know that you blame your partner, your husband, your friend, the weather, God, anything? You blame the politicians and you sit in your armchair and you're moaning and groaning, a resenter. If something matters enough to you, then stop complaining, start accepting the reality. And the serenity prayer is very true. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I'm not unable to change the things I can, and to know the difference. So there's nobody you can change, not one iota of another person can you change without their permission. And if you love so much because of your insecurity, I put my hands up to that one for decades, and you will do anything so people will like you, so they won't be cross with you, they won't abandon you, they won't resent you. Then I ended up having a nervous breakdown, it was called, in 1991, having to go and work out why, when I was a good person and I was give, why my life wasn't working. Of course, then you find out there's another label you can have, which is from a beautiful book, Women Who Care Too Much, Women Who Love Too Much. If you look that up on YouTube, you will find great information. And the title is obviously the author's choice. I sort of think and choose to say, it isn't that we care too much, it isn't that we love too much, it is that we don't care and love ourselves enough. We're full of insecurity, we're full of feeling inferior, we're full of irrational guilt, irrational fear, all of the above, just one or two, and that follows us right through life. It's like the background in an emotional way that's activated. See, activated, not triggered. Triggered just suggests you'll go into the same trauma. Activated means it activates a feeling, an emotion that maybe you haven't resolved. And so therefore you do act in the same way and the same thing happens. So if you do the same thing happens. If you look within at some of your patterns of behavior, why you do what you do, and question it and ask yourself, is that helping me now? Is that relative? It's great, this is. It's great once you start looking inside. The problem was for me, when I stopped blaming other people, I realised that I've always, as long as I can remember, always blamed myself. It must be my fault. I was encouraged to do that. I was humiliated at school. It goes on and on. All sorts of abuse. And then people say, well, it's in the past. Leave it there, get on with your life. Well, Miss or Mr. Cocky, stop and listen. You go back to resolve unresolved issues, to heal yourself from a pain that you won't face. That's why we act out roles. So feelings are buried. They're in the past, as people say. They're buried, and feelings are alive. So they're alive. So you bury them, and they do all sorts of mischief to your physical health. And that's why mind, body, soul, the whole of the body and the mind and our feelings need to be looked at when we go to a specialist, a doctor, a nurse, somebody who is trying to fix the physical body, when there is a deeper issue, which is an emotional response. So if I am in pain, which sadly I'm in constant pain, I have to say to myself, what's my pain trying to tell me? And I have worked patiently, hard, it is hard work, to resolve so many issues. And it's an ongoing thing, so it's not something that you give up. It's like walking, it's like breathing, it's something, because we're ever changing, always changing. It's the most exciting thing, because then if I'm hurting in my body, I say to myself, is it relevant to now? Has this activated something from the past, when somebody yet again, and I will say this with a bit of an edge, yet again takes my loving nature for granted, takes me for granted, because I always show up. If I'm not able to get somewhere, I'll let you know. So if you don't hear from me, it's because I've not had your email, I've not had your message. Don't think to yourself, I thought she cared. Just resend a message. It's the same with letters and so on. Cards. I love cards, and I love to receive them, and I love to send them. And over the years, being in New Zealand for over 20 years now, it's saddened me enormously that people, over time, I find out, not that, okay, it's nice to have a thank you. So you don't give to receive something back. If somebody does appreciate it, that's wonderful. So it was with great sadness that, you know, I had to accept that people don't appreciate, don't say thank you. And even if they don't have to, I send because I want to, not because I want something back. To then find that they hadn't actually received a card, and not only that, they hadn't received a card from me, a card I had sent. They didn't say to me, Sue, I just want to ask, did you send a card? Because I hadn't received it. They then go and tell other people, our Sue, our Sue. And it wasn't true. So they then fall out with me. This is over decades. And then one day you might have a simple conversation. And I've got a story I'll tell here because it's true. And it's not about the other person, it's about the example I've just given. And that is this. There was a fallout with a member in the family, me and somebody, it doesn't matter who, it's never about the other person. And then we got closer and closer, which was wonderful. And then one day we were talking, and I'd grown quite a bit. I'd stopped being the person that was such a people pleaser. I'd stopped being a person who was scared of you rejecting me, because that's what people do. And I just had to live with that until I could get over it and then learn to understand. And I just happened to say, when this person said to me, oh, your card came late, with an edge, an intention to manipulate, so I'm supposed to feel guilty. And look, I felt guilty even though I'd not done anything I did. So I said, oh, I'm glad you got it. And she said something else. And I said, you know, I haven't received a card off you for 3 years. She said, really? You're joking? And I hadn't received a card for 3 years. And she was so upset because in actual fact, she hadn't sent me a card. It doesn't matter the reason. So for a month, every month she sent me a card in place of the cards that I didn't receive. And we both learned a lot. And you know, those cards, even though they were late, they were so precious to me because that's acting out something that you understand. And of course, yes, she had been talking about me. Yes, I was this person and that person. Well, actually, this is the whole point. If there's something upsetting you, then take the risk and ask the other person. Don't point the finger. Just say, I'd like to tell you something. I'm feeling a little bit sad. And I just need to know. And whatever it was, you know, it might be that so-and-so told me that you'd said, and here's the Chinese whispers. And then sometimes your gut, your intuition will tell you, well, I know who's telling the truth. So there's all these stages of life. And don't you want to get to a place where you no longer feel irrational guilt or any sort of guilt? Irrational fear, irrational guilt, irrational fear is because you have been manipulated and you still feel guilty for something that wasn't yours, that was introduced to you by an adult, the language of the blame shame, because it made them feel better and they could take great delight in having power over you. So it just is the greatest gift you can give yourself when you stop and say to yourself, do I really want to understand? Instead of blaming other people, instead of blaming myself, don't you think you deserve peace of mind? Don't you think that you deserve to have this beautiful soul with unconditional love and give that gift to yourself? It was our birthright. It's energy. And we can listen to that beautiful voice and let that voice guide us, or we can listen to the fear and the blame and the shame. the critical voice, the one that's forever complaining. And that's not who we are. It's how we've learned to be in order to survive. So you can be more than a survivor, more than a victor. You can be authentic and find out who you are, what you really like, when you're not being dictated to or ruled by all this stuff that you can choose to change. And risk telling the truth. You don't have to be unpleasant. It's called being assertive, not aggressive, assertive. So you assert the right to say what you're feeling or what you're thinking without putting it on anybody else. So if I said to you, you make me feel, that's controlling. You make me feel, I don't want you to think, that's controlling. So the you statement and the I statement, this is how I'm feeling. Maybe it's not true. Maybe I've taken it out of all proportion. Only can I just ask you, did you say so-and-so about me? Can I just ask you and remind you that I lent you some money and you haven't repaid me? That person might be very upset because you've been honest. Just stay calm, just tell the truth, and know that you do risk that person not wanting to like you, not wanting anything to do with you. And if that is true, just by your honesty in a kind, giving way, then is that relationship worth hanging on to? Because it's your giving and other people are taking. It's what people do. More people than I like to imagine. And are you somebody who's a victim? Have you been bullied? And are you still allowing bullying to happen, even though it happened when you were a child or a teenager? You know, you can change the way you see it, not the fact that you were bullied. You can change the way you view that, and you can actually learn to take back your own power. And you don't have to be unpleasant. You don't have to get loud and aggressive. You can learn about your emotions, use them in a healthy way. Why do you eat when you're not hungry? Why do you say yes when you want to say no? Why have you no boundaries around anything? Then you're wide open for people to take advantage of you. And is that what you want? Okay, I'm going to show you something about invisible conditions. Invisible conditions, this is the last part of my life. And I hope I've given you food for thought. And if not, then that's fine. This is not for you. This is self-development. This is self-awareness. This is self-care. This is understanding that you matter. And it's the greatest gift you can give to yourself. And of course, it's hard work. Now, one of the things I have found in life is that there are invisible conditions that we live with because people don't understand, because it hasn't affected them. And one of the things I wanted to show you, I've got some visual aids. Visual aids are, this is a hearing aid, a visual aid. And in my slimming clubs, I always did visual aids because I think they keep people's attention in a time when, you know, people can't be bothered to listen. They don't want to grow. It's instant gratification. And yet, if you listen, you will learn so much more than you would ever imagine. I won't be a minute. That's another concentration I have to do. It's like it's spelling, you see. And if I'm asking you to subscribe to Sue Gaskell. If you use my name, and then there's all sorts of different different bits. I don't think I've spelt that right now. Subscribe, I might have done. Because there's so many lives that you can connect to. I'm sat here looking at myself. I'm talking to myself. There's nobody interacting. That's hard work, believe it or not. And if anybody wants to join me, you can come and join me, and we can actually, you be visible and myself, and you can ask me any questions about any topic, and we can get on and help you grow. Or you can go to my website. You can subscribe to one of my groups in the shop, and you can have my one-to-one coaching. Again, I do that all over the world on lives like this, and it's obviously just you and I. And you can join a group. So, have you got an invisible condition that you have to live with that affects you socially, that affects your quality of life, that affects how you interact with a loved one? The one I want to focus on is your hearing. How many of you have a hearing loss? How many of you are completely deaf? Deaf means you're not able to hear. I don't have to use a politically correct word, because I'm deaf on some levels. That doesn't mean I'm stupid. It means I'm expressing and describing something which I'm talking about myself. And I'm asking you, do you have to struggle to hear? And is it your pride that won't allow you to have a hearing test because, oh, there's nothing wrong with you? And this can be any age. Some children are born non-hearing. That means they're deaf, they're not able to hear. And the old analogy of, are you deaf? See, the tone of voice changes. What I'm actually saying, I'm asking, are you deaf? Are you unable to hear as well as you did? It's a question. And I'm saying that if it offends you, then you need to look at why you're offended when someone is not remotely doing anything offensive. That'll be something to do with something that happened in the past. It's activated, and you take exception. You don't like it. Okay, it's about the other person. That is not you. How you receive it is about you. Okay, now then, this was my hearing aid. It still is, of course. And that has a red mark on there. And red says is the right eye, red, right. And there's blue on there for the left side, left. And my experience, my little story is, I've not spelt my name right. I love it. Do I have a sense of humour? Can I laugh at myself? Oh, yes. So my name is Gaskell. It's there. And so it must be 8 or 9 years ago, more, people were saying, oh, you didn't hear what I said and things like that. And then I went to have a hearing test. And before this, I had this ringing in my ears, and especially this one, my right ear. So I went and I had the condition labelled tinnitus, which in itself is so debilitating. Have you had tinnitus? Do you know someone who has tinnitus? Some people can block the noise, which is absolutely great, or get used to it and don't mind. Mine with hearing aids, when I got my first hearing aids, the tinnitus, when the hearing aid in, stopped. And I was told I was very fortunate because tinnitus sometimes has other side effects. So my hearing and the tinnitus were connected, and that was able to be relieved. So when I went back, I'd had the hearing aids for a few weeks. I said, I'll have the right one. Well, the clinician said, well, you have to have both. And I said, no, I don't. They're both, you pay for them individually. And by this time, I've learned to be more assertive. and I'm not scared of being honest. I'm kind. I said, no, this one stops the tinnitus. And although this hearing isn't as good as it could be, and a hearing aid would work, financially, that doesn't work for me. And it didn't. So I had one hearing aid. As soon as the hearing aid was in, and it's this little fella here, then tinnitus just stopped, and that was wonderful. So I went back to have another hearing test a couple of years later, maybe 1, 2, and the gentleman persuaded me to have a second hearing aid. So here I am, 2 hearing aids. Nobody knew I wore them because they're so small, they're right behind the ear. And I could manage quite well. In company, it was difficult sometimes, and I had to say, can you repeat that? And then if you're in a group, it's hard because you can hear all the chatter from everyone and not really hear anybody particularly. So you can talk to the person next to you. So all these things and many, many more are part of an invisible condition and how it affects you and other people. Because before I knew about it from experience, it would be irritating to have to keep repeating myself. And I learned I had a lot of patience, and even I got frustrated. And some people just, they fall out. Oh, you're deaf, what's up with you? And they say some awful things when you're struggling anyway, trying to cope with the loss of one of the senses that you're told will never come back. So hearing aids is an invisible condition. These glasses, I'm not able to read anything. I can just see Sue Gaskell. And these are still the non-prescription glasses. So I put these on and I can see. So if I don't take my glasses with me sometimes, then I'm not only struggling to hear, I'm struggling to see, and I lose a lot of these glasses. So that's a second invisible condition. So how do I feel if I haven't got my glasses? I feel a little bit vulnerable. If I haven't got my hearing aids, then I can feel vulnerable, and I've learned to lip read. And so when people say something, I'll say, I do have hearing aids, and if they don't know, I don't mind people knowing. It's nothing to do with vanity. That is, though, I want that straight. And I'll say to them, if you're not looking at me, or you've got your back turned to me, I'm not able to hear you as well, even with my hearing aids, because I notice that I do lip read. And then now with all the masks that people have worn, everyone's saying, I didn't realise. Realisations are great. We all lip read. So those are things to think about. So these hearing aids, which I've shown you, I decided a short time ago that I'd go and have another test, because this is what comes with the hearing aids, the originals. You had to replace the battery when it whistled and said it's wasting. There were these that you had, little wires that you had to put in. There's batteries, there's a cleaner, you have to clean that, you have to put that through. There's the wipes. These are the little domes that go on the end. See that one? Yes. And there we go. So there's quite a kit. Then you have this little tub that these are put in, and they are like a drying cabinet, which you have to replace. And you put your hearing aids in there so they don't get wet. Of course, you mustn't swim or go anywhere near water because they can damage your hearing aids. So off I went to have my hearing test a fortnight ago. It's hardly changed in years. Now, I consider that a result. I really consider that a result. And there was an upgrade, and I wanted to just tell you about the upgrade, because if you are concerned about hearing, you're concerned about having a test and you think, I can't be bothered, it's a loss to think that I've got to do that, it'll make me feel old, then I would try and persuade you to reconsider your choice, because we all have choices, because we miss out on so much when we're not able to hear as well. So imagine my delight when there was an offer on of over $3,000 off my new hearing aids. They look very similar to the ones I've shown you. They're a better quality. No, these aren't them. Those are my earrings. They're a better quality, and these are the differences. This is a battery charger, and my, whoops, and in here, there and there, red and blue, you see, left and right ear, I put my hearing aids in there to charge up each day on a charger, and it's the charger that charges the hearing aid. The hearing aid will last mostly a day if you've got them continuously, and this will store, so you can charge up very quickly. So that was great. So again, I hope I've got your attention. If you're somebody who's got invisible conditions, there are other ones I'm going to mention. I'm talking about hearing loss with the visual aid. I was talking about if you want to lose weight, there's a healthy eating plan. Just go to my website, the information's there. I've talked about glasses. So the hearing aid, imagine my delight, not just this as a fabulous way, and you can, it's just so simple, and therefore you're not going to lose this, and you can tune into your mobile phone, which is the greatest joy for me, and I can listen without anything other than my hearing aids in. I can listen to anything on Bluetooth, and I just am so thrilled. And this one, what about this? If I lose a hearing aid, and I've done that in the past, I've actually found them after a week, believe it or not, on a big open field. Now that was divine intervention. A voice in my head said, go here, and I went. And if you lose your hearing aid, you can tune in, and this little device will tell you where your hearing aid is. Well, man, woman, humans haven't we got amazing ability? So that was another invisible condition that I struggle with, and I've seen friends, they fall out on a regular basis because one is not able to hear and one talks quietly, and they blame each other. I've got a great success story, which again, I don't mention names, and that is a friend who could hardly hear at all. He went and had a cochlear implant. So therefore, cochlear implant is the most amazing thing that you can actually hear again from this device. And well, these are great things. So what's your reason for not doing something about not hearing as well? Think about yourself, think about other people, and think about the quality of life that you are letting pass you by for something as simple as going and having a test. And then if it's finance, I think that's sad. The same with glasses, because glasses and hearing aids they're all costly when it's prescription, and we all live in a time where not everyone has health insurance. I don't. And it's the same with our dentists. You know, again, you can put up with all sorts of things and not have your treatment because of cost. The other thing I want to talk about is chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and ME. And those are invisible, painful conditions. Fibromyalgia is the muscular. I have that condition. It's infinitely better than it was, because in the last 20 years, I've gone away, I've been on courses, I've learned, I've listened, I've paced myself. ME is chronic fatigue, where your body just doesn't recover. So you have to learn how to manage it. And I'm delighted to say, when people mention it, I say, well, I manage my ME. It doesn't manage me. I have me, ME, me. So that twist on the word, I'm not negative about it. I'm not negative about any of this. I get stressed, I do. And I quickly have to remind myself, why are you doing that? And then we've got arthritis. Well, Arthur's in my bed every night. Arthritis, Arthur. So I pretty well have arthritis in joints that are operable, knees, hips, feet, you know, most of the joints. So I reckon my skeleton is pretty tired, and because of the life I led, and I truly believe this, that I was such a people pleaser. And yes, I had a temper and I blew my top, and then I felt even more guilty because I hated that. And I think all of this arthritis is the end result of not having my own power, feeling resentment a lot, and that feeling has manifested itself in my body. And even deeper, and this is another talk I'll give, envy. That I've envied people most of my life, envied them the power they had to make their own choices. Whereas me, because I needed people, I needed to be liked, I had no such thing. Another smile from my mum. And so that being the case, the arthritis is literally mostly through my body. In the joints, cartilages have gone, worn out. And that's another invisible condition that we're told there's no cure. You can have replacement joints, and that's successful, which is wonderful. If you have your own health insurance, then obviously that's a choice thing because you paid for it. If not, then we all know that we have to be very patient because the system in a lot of countries is really, really overstretched, and resources and so on and so forth. So invisible conditions, there are so many more. There's physical conditions that we can see, that people aren't able to walk, or they've not got their arms or a limb. And the invisible condition, we go along trying to cope, and I think we do ourselves a disservice and other people. And it's not about complaining, it's about being factual. And if you tell people the truth and say, look, you know, I've got this condition, it's pretty painful, it's not something you'll see, and I'll go to great lengths to try and pick things up when it hurts. And this is me personally again, you know, and these joints sometimes are just unbelievably painful. And that there is great consideration that I'm going to have these, you know, new joints. Then you've got to be, you know, 4 or 5 months recovery, each one, knees, backs. And so to finish this, and I do mean this, and I hope you've listened, or listen in part and then go back to it. That's what I do. If it's a 2-hour thing, I split it into episodes. Have a pen and write things down that I need to learn from it. And then I'm 76 years in this physical body with the emotions and the mind that never stops talking. I wish I'd have had somebody like me being my own best friend as I am now, because of mistakes I've made that you have to pay for now. So the pain in my body has come from decades of being subservient, and that's not a good idea. So if you're in your teens, 20s, and you think, oh, I'm going to live forever, that's absolutely okay. The reality is, it's really a good idea to think about everything now. And that's what I'm here to try and go through and explain and say to you. When you're going out next and you see somebody who's struggling, or they're a bit slower, or they're not able to hear you quite well, just remember this. One day that might be you. And it would be a really great idea if you stopped long enough thinking about yourself and the money and what you want, and need. Oh, I need this, I need that, monetary things. Might be a good idea if we could all stop and just reflect and think. And in order to do that, I'm closing spot on time. Simply focus on your breathing. Focus on your breathing, and that breath goes out into every cell of the body, and we'll be talking about that next time. Not just meditating, Pilates and all sorts of things that you can do and enjoy doing as part of your daily routine to feel better, to do the best you can with this body. And remember that you matter. Remember that you are lovable, that you need to reconnect to that unconditional love within the self. You don't have to go around blaming yourself or other people. It's a new language, and that's another story. I've learned all the words we need to take out, and there's loads more, and change to the language of love, not fear. Okay? I'll see you next week, and if you would subscribe, that's great. If this is not for you, I hope you have your best life possible, because we're all doing the best we can, and we're all in this together. Connected with love. Bye for now.